Knight.
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
Hi, I'm Stephen Grant.
Hi, I'm Jake Lockley.
Hi, I'm Mark Spector.
Together, we're Moon Knight.
Yeah.
3 guys in a body. My favorite sitcom. Welcome everyone to Read Weens, the final episode where we're covering the 1980 run of Moon Knight, his first solo series. We read issues 1 through 38, which is the entire run. Almost all penned by Doug Mensch. I think like the last 3 issues aren't him. And maybe 1 or 2 throughout. There's guest writers, but yeah, so we read that. Thomas, when'd you finish?
Like 30 minutes ago, however long before.
Joe, when'd you finish?
About 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah. So fresh in these guys' minds.
Very fresh. Who's Moon Knight?
So yeah, we're just gonna kind of talk about what we thought, what we need. There's a door opening.
Hi, door opening.
To give me a drink. Drink, please.
Hello.
What?
The spirit of Khonshu has provided me sustenance.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I read extra because these jokers took forever to fucking read.
I read slowly.
I read the entirety of all 3 of the original Epic collections. So I read the entirety of the first Epic collection, which has the first 4 issues of Moon Knight. I don't need that.
You said you wanted food.
I don't need it right now.
You always want it right now.
Okay. Sorry, the spirit of Khonshu wanted to give me a burger.
I see.
What was I saying? So it has the first 4 issues, I think, but it also has the first appearances of Moon Knight, which is Werewolf by Night 32 and 33. It has Defenders 46, 7, and 8, I think. So all of the original appearances by him. And before he had his own solo series, in the Incredible Hulk self-titled, the big version, he had like a side story in the back of that. So I was reading all the content from that stuff. Which is all terrible.
Really?
Yeah. I think there is I think it's pretty much the last thing that's in the collection, or it's pretty close to ending. There's a side plot where it introduces Mark Spector's brother, which is never brought up again. That's pretty good.
I was curious, they brought that up kind of towards the end of like the canon issue run where they're like, oh, Mark's brother. And I was like, did I miss something?
There's also one where he fights a guy who looks like a dog named Lupinar. That was decent too. So there's like 2 decent little arcs in there, but in general, if you're gonna read Moon Knight, I don't think you need to read any of that. It's mostly really bad. Werewolf by Night 32 and 33, his first appearance, is terrible. A terrible comic.
That was the same like issues 32 and 33 in like the comic run, right? When they fought the werewolf?
No, that's his second. That's when the werewolf reappears.
Gotcha.
So you guys were kind of missing out on their.
I don't feel like I was missing out. Yeah, I got that these guys kind of know each other, but like
they know each other in the sense that they fought.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh.
But also like I felt like there was just a lot of characters that like they're just like, oh yeah, like Moon Knight just kind of knows a lot of people.
Yeah. So I guess before we dive in, overall, what did you guys think?
I thought the back half of the run was substantially better than the first half. The first like 15 issues were tough for me to get through. Like there was some cool stuff going on. I liked a lot of the fights. I liked a lot of the characters. I couldn't get into it. And then like around like issue like 20 or like 19, like things started like clicking for me. Like, okay, I'm really, really liking it. It took me a while to really get into like the swing of things with it. Very, very slow start. And like it started going and I really liked it. Really liked a lot of like the recurring characters. The main thing is like there wasn't enough like cool paneling and framing to keep me engaged. I've learned I really like that. There was some stuff scattered throughout, but not a whole lot. There's a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue, which I don't mind. It's just it was a lot. It's just a lot. I like pictures in my picture books.
I thought the whole run was pretty dry. Pretty dry and pretty like scarce of kind of what I was hoping to get from it. I feel like every once in a while, like they would drop like a nugget of like an idea of something I wanted to see, but then like the run never got to that point where they fully fleshed that out. And so I was just kind of like, But yeah, there's definitely like select bits of it that I thought were enjoyable. Like I thought issue 10, which was around there, was the first arc was kind of like colliding, where that's where they brought like Midnight back and he was working for the Bushman, and then kind of like it feels like every like 5 issues or so it kind of started ramping up, and then like 25 and onwards it was all like pretty decent, but like still I'm not a big fan of like the kind of dynamics of this run. I feel like they don't dive like super deep into like Mark's identity as much as I would like, and I don't really like his band of misfits. I like them in concept because Moon Knight, compared to like a lot of other heroes, has like his people in the chair and on the streets who are.
He has a pretty eclectic group too.
I that was one of the parts that I really liked. Anytime that we saw, Lockley doing the cab thing, going to Gina's, talking to Crawley, loved that. But like that was the only time that I felt like we got to see much of anything. Like it very much felt like thing happened. Moon Knight goes, "Frenchie, get the chopper," and Frenchie goes, I will get the chopper," and then he beats people up, and like it was just kind of like rinse repeat.
And he gets home and he's like,
and Marlene,
"Sorry, Marlene."
Marlene's like, I don't know what to do with you."
Like, "Don't worry, you don't have to do anything. I'm gonna go drive a taxi and go get breakfast at Gina's." It's like, I mean, it definitely had its charms and its moments. I just feel like as a whole, it didn't really call to me.
What about you?
I think I'm a little more positive, but in general, I do think like the first few issues, like maybe 1 through 5 or 6, are just not good, like at all.
Okay.
It's really funny. Like issue 2, I think issue 1 is maybe the worst issue in the series. I really don't like issue 1. I think issue 2 is like fun in concept. That's the one with like Crawley and his son. But I think it probably should have been 2 issues. Everything's kind of just finished really swiftly. And then I think after like when you get done with like the first Epic Collection, I think in general the second Epic Collection is full of pretty good stuff. But it also jumps between being things that I think are genuinely great and things that I think are horrendous. And it's funny because it's written by the same person. You see the same writing style, and a lot of it just doesn't hit. But I liked a lot of it. I like the I can't remember her name, but she's like a widow, and then she has to like fight her son.
The actress Nun.
Yeah, I like her a lot. I like both issues with her in it.
Scarlet.
Scarlet I really liked.
Yeah. There's an issue, I think it's 27, that I talked about where it's told from the perspective of Stephen Grant. He's like the narrator on that issue. I like that one quite a bit because that's really like the first glimpse. Because I actually kind of like how it's like Stephen Grant is more of the central character. He's the one that's like outward facing the most. And he's like just denying the other parts of himself. They're kind of just using it as like, no, they're just disguises. And I like this slow build up into like, no, there are actually other identities living within me. But it kind of just ends. Like the run ends before, like it feels like they're about to hit something profound and then it's done. And I'm like, what the hell?
I definitely felt that a lot. There were a lot of moments where it's like, okay, something like cool is happening. We're starting to learn more about like, we got a bit of Mark Spector's past, like at the very end.
Like, I was talking to my coworker. I'm like, do you know when like Judaism was like introduced as a core concept that's relevant to like Mark Spector as a character? Because I'd heard a lot of things about that, and it's in like the newer run. Like because I was reading this, I'm like, it's not in this run, and it's those second to last.
The second to last issue.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, it is in this run.
Yeah.
But it's also not written by Doug Minch. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, I wanted more, like, reason for why the characters exist and, like, a lot more of their function. Because, yeah, it definitely felt like, oh, I gotta go figure out what the town's talking about. I gotta go drive the cab. I gotta go out and do, like, this public thing. I gotta be Stephen Grant, but I can never be Mark Spector. Can't let him around. And then, oh, it's nighttime. It's time for Moon Knight. You know,
I do like it's either the last issue or the second to last issue, but he's like going nuts on a guy because Mark Spector's like fully out of that moment. And they're like, dude, you're gonna kill him. And he's like, yeah, I am popping off, aren't I?
He's like, yeah, he says like, I'm popping off kind of hard right now.
Yeah,
that was really funny. There were a lot of funny lines. I wrote down some funny lines as I was reading, or like funny / like pretty good lines. I forget the setup for it. Oh no, it was when he was like, he got beaten by what's his face, and he was like really depressed.
It was
what's his name?
That was when Bushman came back, right?
No, it was later in the run. Anyway, someone beats his fucking ass, and he says, "Tell me if a loser can ever be a winner." And I'm like, that's a good line. That's a hard line. And then when he was fighting Scarlet, at the end, she was like, "Once started, the drum beats blood red forever." And like response, like the circle of violence.
Yeah.
Like that line goes pretty hard.
I actually think, in general, there's a lot of really strong writing.
Yeah, but
then it just feels like there are some things that just aren't expanded upon enough with the run. Like a couple of arcs that are like 2 issues, I felt should have been 3. One of my favorite arcs is there's a little 2-issue arc with like this street gang of kids near them.
Oh, that was
I liked it quite a bit, and then it just also ended really abruptly.
That was probably my favorite like little arc that they did, because I thought a lot of what they had to tell in that story was really, really good and interesting. But just it came and went.
But
yeah, I'm kind of interested because it seemed like that one, and like there's one other that was like a handful of issues before that felt like they were non-canon stories, but then they kind of got like worked because it seemed like they were kind of like a different vibe than the rest of the comic was.
Yeah, and I feel like just in general, all the like more grittier street level stuff, I felt like I was really connecting with. There's a line in the final or the second to last issue where they're like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm here because I'm one of the persecuted." I'm like, "What the fuck?"
That was a good line. I liked that one.
It just really feels like we were about to hit something great. And we've had plenty of Moon Knight since, and there have been runs that I've heard are great, and I'll probably read them now. Like the new run, from what I've read, I really like. I'm like 30 issues behind, but it's from what I've really liked it. And in general, I actually am going to disagree with Joe here. I like the paneling in this quite a bit. I think most of it is pretty standardized, but like it flows really well for me. And also I just love the coloring on like cities in like 80s comics where like buildings are all purple and blue. And there's so many like nice color meshes that like buildings now are just like, yep, they're great. They look like buildings. Like, no!
Yeah. There's some nice
I like a lot of the aesthetic choices. I do like the 80s comic aesthetic a lot. I did enjoy that a good chunk.
Yeah. There's some pretty like creative paneling too. Like there's this one that happens in the one where it's not the Scarlet one, but it's the one where the guy like goes back to his house and like falls into his father's grave. But like at the start of that comic,
I love that issue.
Yeah, that was a good one. I liked that one. I liked a lot of the more like kind of horror centric ones too. Like I like the one where like everyone was like going insane through the disease.
Yeah, like the animal whatever.
But at the start of the haunted house one, there's like this like panel that's like wide across the entire page, and it's like cut into thirds, and like it's the same setting, but the characters are like progressing closer to the house through it, and it's like, oh, that's fun. It's just a fun little creative example.
I can't remember. In this run, was there? It would have been towards the end. There was like a big bald guy with like
that was
fangs. I can't remember.
That was this issue. That was
a good issue. I like that.
I like that issue. That's another one that I'm like, I wish that had been like a double-sized issue. Because I felt like, but yeah, some of the writing in that's really good towards the end.
Fuck the end when Moon Knight's talking to the reporter. It's like this guy was pretty like chill,
yeah,
and then
it's like literally
really hard.
You're just hurting a poor person. Like, it's one thing to be like a reporter that's taking down like big people or like corporations or like rich people, like people with resources, but you're just targeting a poor person at that point.
Yeah, no, that was a good one.
I also really liked the I think it was 2-issue run where like Marlene was like, I'm just gonna leave you. I really liked that because I thought Marlene was like a cool character. Once again, I wanted more. I wanted more character work.
I think Marlene in general is a pretty interesting character. She almost dies before the run even starts, by the way. In the run with Mark Spector's brother, she gets stabbed and is like bleeding out.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh. And then they never mention it. That's the other thing is that I think this is a little too episodic for me. Like nothing, like they mention some things very occasionally, like towards the end. But
some characters like return.
Like, I don't feel like it's as like
planned out
as I want it to be. Or like they don't really take into account things that have happened. Also. Some of the language used. Marlene calls Stephen Grant schizo head a lot, which is a little bit rough.
Yeah, and they use some choice terms sometimes when referring to specific races, but
and like some of it is like, yeah, they're just showing racism, but some of it is just like, no, they're just.
Yeah, there's a line straight out of the mouth of Moon Knight in like the second issue, and it's like, oof.
Yeah. And like, I can look past that, but it's definitely like, takes you out of it for a moment.
Yeah, definitely sometimes reading through and just see those things and they're just like, oh, well, this was written in the 80s, I guess.
This is 43 years old now.
Yeah.
But in general, it's just like, I think this run in mostly is worth a read. I think there are parts of it that I really enjoy, and then there are parts that are really bad. In general, I feel like, and especially because it is more like episodic, it's not super connected a lot of the times, you could probably just like put together a list of the best ones and be good with that, because the other ones are really bad. I don't really think there's any ones that I'm just like, that was fine. It's either I really liked it or I really did not like it. I think there are more ones that I really like than disliked, though. So
I think I'm still like, I don't have like a barometer for like what's like bad. It's mostly like, I don't care about this, or this is kind of cool. I haven't developed like this is just bad. Yeah.
And I think I like dialogue. So, and I like internal monologues. So I was fine with it. There is a lot of dialogue in this. I will agree with that.
Dialogue.
But I was fine with it.
Yeah, I thought there was a little too much dialogue. They were trying to be descriptive a lot of the time, but like the text boxes were just like atmosphere setting for stuff that's like you could visually see in the panel. There's like one, I think, in the first or second issue where it's like, dark, foggy alleyway. Babies are crying and cats are screeching. It's like you can literally see that in the panel. It's like, I just wasted like 30 seconds reading that when I could have just.
I think in general, I'm just also very fast at reading, so it's just like I'm just immediately passing.
I mean, 30 seconds is a bit exaggerated, unless
I get
like dense boxes, in which case it's like, oh shit.
And it's like panel to panel, it's like giant bits of dialogue. There were I think it was also in Scarlet. There was a bit of interesting paneling there where it's like they're both on either side facing each other, and then the dialogue's just in the middle, and it's like section, or it's pointed to each person talking. I thought that was pretty cool. I like that. Like there were, like I said, there were bits of the paneling that I thought was interesting, but it wasn't. I felt like
Animal Man.
It was an Animal Man, but that's the drawing part.
Yeah, And there was some awkward paneling. Like there are points where like they had to draw these big red arrows that indicate like, all right, next is this one.
I actually really liked that. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
I didn't really have much of an issue like reading through it at all, but I did notice when it was there. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I guess fold the arrow.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, this is the way the book wants me to read it. I'm going to read it in this way.
No, I'm going to read it backwards like a manga. But, yeah.
Mostly a mixed bag for me. Like, there were parts that I was like, whatever. There were parts that I thought were pretty cool. There were a few moments that I thought, okay, this is like something like genuinely really cool, but it was alright. It was fine.
It's probably not where you want to start with the character.
No, like I see a lot of like the interesting seeds being planted, and like, oh, this is all going to get really fleshed out later on, or like explored later on. Why was the Judaism bit like the second to last issue? That would have been very, very interesting to see run its course throughout the entire series. But I would be interested in reading more Moon Knight.
Oh, for sure.
I will say, like, if somebody, like a young reader, started reading this now, they probably wouldn't want to get into the character more, I don't think. Maybe if they got to the end of this one, but if I was a kid and I was reading those first couple issues, I'd be like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Bring me Spider-Man. But I really like concepts in this. It's just like, they don't really do a ton with Crawley after that first issue he's in. And it's like, that's like Frenchie he's just there. Gina's just like, they just don't give any character, the side characters.
They might give him the courtesy of like, here's an issue that's like, we'll give you like a backstory. Like John Paul has that like romantic interest that gets like killed by the drug lord or whatever. And
they also don't really do. He talks about it later on. He's like, her dad, Frenchie's lover, Crawley's son, and then it's like they don't. But
nothing happened. Like, we don't do anything with it.
What am I doing? And then it just feels like. Honestly, it feels like they want to be like this gritty, mature comic, and they occasionally are. And then most of the time they're not, though.
Yeah, no, I felt like they were kind of struggling to find their voice.
Yeah, and also, their voice, their tone, just a ton of like groundwork that's being done, and I like seeing things get better as it goes. So like maybe that's it too that I'm a little lighter on. I'm like this.
Yeah, I think I was like going into this and like when you had told me it gets like better as it goes along, so I was like, all right. So I was kind of expecting like a Sleepwalker situation where it's like, all right, it starts off a little dull, but like it actually genuinely like
we keep going. Yeah,
it has a quality like bend that is pretty consistent, whereas like this kind of felt like it was more all over the place.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I also think Sleepwalker has like cohesive like character building, while this it just feels like they just forget to do anything a couple of issues, and then they'll cram all the character they want in one issue,
and then don't do anything with the character afterwards.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I laughed out loud at one point because there was like a point where like Mark comes in and he's like, Marlene, I've got a question for you about like morals and like someone bad. And like he walks away from it and she's like, seems bummed out the whole time. And she's like, my brother just died. And I had completely forgotten about it, even though it was like the issue right before. And that they never bring that up again. So it's like,
or do anything with the character or the moment
Yeah, and maybe if they had like brought the brother back, because I mean it was a large stretch of issues between his first appearance and when he came back for the Morpheus stuff again.
Yeah,
I do think I really like the Morpheus stuff.
Yeah, I thought the Morpheus stuff was pretty good too.
We should have gotten Morpheus versus Sleepwalker.
Yeah, I would
have been in like.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to see more Morpheus, and I would have liked to see more of what was his opposite guy's name? Like the guy.
Midnight.
The Black Spectre.
Yeah,
the Black Spectre was sick.
That was cool. I like that. I'm the Black Spectre, and these are my ghosts.
When he fought the embodiment of racism, Xenos.
Yep.
I really like that issue. But that's another one. I'm like, that could have been a whole arc. And And it's like, no. You don't want to do that.
Oh,
Here's more Werewolf by Night. I'm like, no!
I like the Thing just kind of showing me like, hey guys, I'm the Thing.
Yeah. Hey, forget about it!
let me sign your autograph, little kid. I'm gonna go to the ballet now.
Yeah. Hey, do you know where Moon Knight is? Oh, what the fuck?
Fuck Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
I'm Banquet.
Well, you asked me to look for your fucking
You
father.
mess with one of us, you mess with all.
That's it, kid. It's clobbered.
I do like the issue with the X-Men near the very end. He's like, we must go. And he's like, oh, I brought the entire Fantastic Four. He's like, oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Then they don't really do anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of there. They
like, we gotta let him do it.
We'll blow away some of the tornado debris. It's like, yeah.
There's another thing, like, Moon Knight is, like, his back breaks for a bit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's, like, stuck in a wheelchair. And I know that, like, modern comic audiences wouldn't want, or even during the 80s, like, they wouldn't want an issue or two where he's just, like, wheelchair bound and he's, like, just feeling sorry for himself. But I think that would have been good for the character to have a little more time when he can't be Moon Knight. I know people don't want to just read Mark Spector, the comic, but I think that would have been better. Also, speaking of Mark Spector, I think one of my favorite issues is there's like a bonus story at the end of one where it's like an Indiana Jones-esque adventure.
Oh,
where
yeah.
he finds an idol and he like has to run out of a mountain and stuff, and then he like comes out and the guy's just selling these.
I thought that was really good. I thought that was a lot of fun.
I think that was one of the funniest things in the run, just because it was so out of left field. I'm like, what the fuck am I reading?
I laughed really hard when you said I'm popping off really hard.
He calls people like bozos and what?
Yeah,
like,
he called someone. He called I think his name was Zohar. I think it was Zohar that he was fighting. He just straight up calls him a bozo, and I'm like, that's incredible.
He's a little sassy in this run.
Yep.
And he's pretty sassy in every run, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like if you've read Moon Knight, if you've read like the Lemire run or the McKay run or the Bendis run, and you're like, maybe I want to read that, I think it's worth a read if you're already familiar with the character. If you're getting into it, I think this is a pretty bad starting point. I know it's the original thing, but in general. Also, I think if you're looking at the Epic Collections, just skip the first one. Read 2 and 3. It has much better content, much better stories. The first Epic Collection's really bad. Maybe just read I think it's Marvel Premiere 20 and 21, maybe. The one, whatever has Rand in it. Just read that one.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I think as like my introduction to wanting to get more into Moon Knight, it was not what I was hoping for. It was still decent. Like, I'm still interested in Moon Knight, but like, would this pull me in like super far? Probably not. If I wasn't already like curious and interested, and there were like a few things and a couple characters and ideas that I like that I want to see further explored. Yeah, I'm probably gonna still try and pursue that. But like, if I didn't know these things or care about these things, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think if you want to see like the original run, it's good for what it is if you're already like involved in like Moon Knight.
I think if I was a month-to-month reader in 1980, I probably would have dropped it after like 0.25% of its run. Just because.
And then you would have heard about the man who embodies racism. And you would have like, what now? And he's like, yeah, he dresses like a rat and has a pistol. What? What are you saying?
I might have to check out that issue.
Yeah. He's like, why is he dressed like a rat?
What?
That was so
Because
funny.
that's his best friend. So, what? What are you talking about?
That was so funny.
So, there's some truly random stuff in that issue that I'm just like, I was reading like, what's going on? And then like the funniest panel is where he's just like on the ground slumped over and he's just like, well.
Yeah, I think I was really excited when he was like first like revealing the rats, because I was like, oh, is this going to be like Willard meets Bad Company from JoJo's? And then it didn't turn out to be that.
He's like, no, he just has a rat costume.
Guy in
It's
a
like he
costume
throws
with a
rat
gun.
food on him for like 2 seconds, and the rats are like, oh.
I will say, I think there's a lot of characters in this, like one-off villains, both in this and in the previous stuff in like the first epic collection, that like never came back. I'm like, why didn't they use this? Like, there's some really interesting concepts here that are just never used again. And it's like, there's so much in the last like 100 years of comics that has never been used again, that I'm just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? But you keep bringing back the same old shit.
Yeah. Well,
But we'll get off my soapbox
Yeah, get off your
and
soapbox.
into your hearts.
maybe some of those ideas come back in later runs. Get kind of
Well, like I checked, like a lot of those characters aren't. They're like, what the fuck?
Hmm.
Well, bigger and better ideas, hopefully.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, no, not really. It was a dry read.
Okay.
It's kind of just all right.
Before we go, this is the last the episode for now, maybe forever. Thomas, what was your favorite thing you read?
On Moon Knight or just in general?
For Read Weens?
Dune.
Dune?
Dune. Or
top 3, how about that?
I mean, if we're talking about like my favorite thing that I've read for the show, like just of what's been on the show, One Piece, clearly, because that's like
I couldn't tell.
my bread and butter.
I could not tell.
Yeah, probably Dune after that. And then Animal Man. Animal Man was really good. But yeah, there was other stuff that we read that I quite liked as well.
What was the worst thing we read? Speed Stars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, probably.
It might be Beastars or it might be Hearts in Atlantis.
Yeah, I thought Hearts of Atlantis was like bad, but it was like readable.
Yeah.
Beastars, I was just kind of pissed off the whole time.
Yeah.
Honestly, in general, most of the stuff we read, I liked quite a bit. Like Bleach, I enjoy a lot. I think Wolf and White Van's my favorite book. I really like Worm. I'm probably just going to read it casually now because I've been waiting because I'm like, we'll probably do another episode. Not going to do that anymore, so I'll probably just read it on my own.
Sorry, I wanted to read comics.
One Piece I really liked. The Thrawn trilogy, I love that first Thrawn book a lot, and I like the second one, and I think the third one's great too. I enjoyed Parasite enough. I think Dracula's great.
Yeah, Dracula's.
Dream Story I thought was really fun. I really like that episode. I feel like that episode was really good. I think that Witcher book, we read 2 of them, right?
You read the first two?
Yeah. The first one I was like, The second one I really liked, if I remember. And then I like Devil House a lot. I did not like Hunter x Hunter. But that's okay. Dune was fantastic. Sleepwalkers is the greatest comic of all time. Not true, because Animal Man is. But we also read that. Saga, I liked.
I like Saga.
Invincible was okay.
Yeah.
But I also read the rest of Invincible after, and I did not like it, so...
Yeah, I think my favorite, like, top 3, no particular order, probably Animal Man. I really fucking liked The Devil House. And, I love Hunter x Hunter, but I didn't like reading it as much as I did watching it and making you all experience. Probably One Piece as well.
Yeah.
My top 3, probably.
Yeah.
We had a much better batting average than we did on Screenwings. Actually, I mean, in general, we watched a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe just the bad were way worse than what we read.
Yeah.
We didn't read anything, like, horrendous. Like, I really didn't like Beastars, but, like...
It was still, like, serviceable.
I didn't want to shoot myself in the head.
Yeah, I tried to pick stuff for Read Weens that I knew I was... Because you spend a lot more time reading typically than you do watching something. Unless it's, like, 7-hour Hungarian movie. The 7-hour Hungarian movie was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, in general, I tried to pick something that's something that I at least was like interested in, or was like, oh, I want to read this at some point.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. Even though me and Joe, they're hard to get us to read.
Yep. Well,
I will say,
I will read if I'm really interested in something. I will tear through something. I just need to be hooked in.
Yeah, same. It takes
I will say. I will not miss that. Be like, hey guys, you gonna be ready? And they're like, yep. And then the day before, nope. I was like, Cool deal. But, you know, that's okay. It was fun.
That was good.
Well, it lasted. We salute you. Thank you for reading along with us, even
Thanks
though
for
none of
reading.
you did.
Thanks for weaning alongside of us as well.
Let's wean out.
Read Weens, roll out.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Adios.